All right, sorry I'm late for, posting this review, but Rick and Morty season 6 episode 10 has come out and the plot for it is pretty much this. Morty's always wanted a certain gift for Christmas, but never gets it. This might be the year that Rick finally caves. All right, let's get into the good parts of this episode, and the first thing I'm going to say is that this episode was actually funny, but I will say that the first half wasn't that funny, but the second half of this episode was actually really funny. And there was a certain joke where the president says that maybe we can, change your age so that you can vote. And Morty says that he doesn't really want to get into that stuff. And honestly, who blames him? Another thing that I like about this episode is that Rick and Morty's relationship turns out to be fake. Turns out that all the progress that was done couple episodes was pretty much fake, because apparently Rick created a robot that made him more likable, or he created a more likable version of himself, and that translates pretty well because the family starts to like Rick a little bit more. And then we find out that it was fake, and that the reason why Rick created this thing was by the end of the episode he was trying to figure out how to get Prime Rick, which, by the way, in the first episode, that's something we haven't seen since the first episode. And the fact that we finally get it by the end of season 6 is kind of a bummer for me. Also, Rick and Morty, or Morty himself, gets this lightsaber from the nicer Rick. And then he drops it into... He drops the lightsaber onto the floor. And it just keeps going down and down to the point where it almost hits the Earth's core. And then eventually they are able to get, this lightsaber out of the core. But then we find out that the president's like this massive Star Wars nerd. And then he's playing around with this, a lightsaber. But let's be honest, who wouldn't play around with a lightsaber? And then he ends up dropping it into the core. And then he goes into, space because he's like, well, I guess Earth's going to die, but at least I'm not. And then, Morty and, the robot Rick have to save the world again. The family's not really involved in this episode, really. They're just watching TV for most of the episode and hanging out with, robot Rick. And that's really it from them. But what I will say is that, the final scene of this episode where we find out that Rick has been hunting down Prime Rick and that, season 7, they're going to try and go for him. That really sucks because, like I said, I've been saying pretty much since the beginning of, episode 2, why haven't we gotten this thing? And I think that, the show probably should have just shown us a bit more scenes of Rick trying to get this thing, because clearly it's a big storyline. But for some reason, the writers just decided, we're just going to put this in the first episode, and then we're just not going to address it at all for no reason, to the point where, the audience, at least for me, I just didn't care. And then when they show it again, it's like, now you're going to do it? And now I'm going to have to wait 2 years to see this storyline again? I mean, that's just me, man. I don't know. Overall, guys, although I had a lot of critiques about Rick and Morty Season 6, I still really enjoyed it. And I think for the episodes that we got, I thought that most of them were pretty good. But it just sucks that we really didn't get to see that Prime Rick storyline. But I'm going to go ahead and give Rick and Morty Season 6 a 7.5 out of 10. Have you guys liked Season 6 more than I did? Did you not like it as much as I did? Let me know in the comments. And those are my thoughts on that.